enacting a drama, a play, and he's picking two characters. He's picking a character who is an aspirant who wants to figure out what is the purpose of life, who is he, and he has the basic qualifications like the Samadama, the Satka Sampati. He has these qualifications. He's a quiet guy. He has read a bit, and he is in control of his mind and his senses, and he has done some good works because of which he has some interest in the secrets of life, not the external material ones about success and failure, but it's about the ultimate success in life, which is dharma, artha, kama, moksha, kam. The last one is self-realization, and that is the ultimate thing. So when he goes to the teacher, he asks certain questions, and the teacher, Sankaracharya kind of is enacting, is saying when the teacher goes and asks these questions, the teacher generally answers like this. Actually, he is telling all this. So through two characters, he is giving us a glimpse of what is supposed to be a dialogue on truth between somebody who is a seeker and somebody who is a seer, who has seen it and who can share his experience, his understanding with somebody who aspires to know about it. So the student asks us, "Oh Lord, now tell me." First, what he does is all good counselors, teachers, friends, and parents should do. First, he reassures, "Don't get scared. You have come to me. You are safe. I'm going to take care of you because you are on the right path." And then, therefore, he says that "Ma Veshta, don't get scared now. There is no upaya, there is no loss. There is only upaya out of the conundrum you call the mess in your life, but there is a way out of it. And I shall be essentially introducing you to the path of self knowledge on which many other aspirants like you have crossed over the ocean of ignorance called samsara." So the student asks us in verse number 51st, "Go nama bandha." What is the swarupa of this karma bandha from which one has to get liberated? Katham esa agataha, from where it has come. Why did it come? From where? Katham pratishta asya, and how does it survive? So some bacteria has entered into us, some virus has entered. So what was the opportunistic infection? How did I get this? And how does it continue? What in my body enables this virus to continue in me or in my life or my consciousness? Katham bimoksha, how do I get out of that? How do I free myself from the debilitating, grasp of ignorance where I'm caught? How do I get out of it? Then the guru told him that the way out is actually Atma Anatma Viveka. Everything other than you is Anatma, non self. You are the pure self. And what is that? The Drik Chaitanya, the witness idea, consciousness. So he's saying, Ko also Anatma. What is that Anatma where I am lost? And teacher will tell it. Your house, car, name, fame, relationships, everything that brings in anxiety in you, uncertainty in you, is not you. These things are linked to you through some superimposition, some presumption. It's a presumed relationship which you accept as a fact of life. Then you have problems. You need not be afraid of anything because these are all imagined bondages. Agyana kalpita, avidya kalpita. There is a chain where we are imprisoned. Then the Guru says the chain where you are, which causes your bondage is actually imaginary. As I was telling you, there was this question, the French philosopher who said, men are born free, but everywhere in chains. And that's exactly what Vedanta says. All of us are born free, but we are in chains not created by society, as Rousseau would say, but we are in chains essentially because of the kind of faulty understanding we have allowed to grow and take shape in us because of old sanskaras of several births. Kosho anatma. And then he says, Parama ka atma. And okay, tell me, what is that Parameshwara, Paramatma? What is that? Tayor vivekaha katham etad. And now please also tell me that viveka between Atma and Anatma. Anatma and Paramatma. Everything other than the Chaitanya is what? Anatma. Only whatever you have, house, car, relation, father, mother, anxiety, depression, excitement, is not you. You have these, so you cannot be that. What you have is not you. You are the subject. They are predicate of that sentence. I am this, I am this. So I part is you. The rest of it is a predicate in that sentence. Very least important. That's what Vedanta says. So how do I make the viveka between katham etad uchyatam? Please tell it to me. So he asked a lot of questions at one go. Like Arjuna asked Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, what is the bandha, the bondage where we were captured, and how it came? Second, third, how it survives, what is its continuity, how does that materialize, how to get out of it. And then Guru said, if you do Atma Anatma Vichara, you can loosen this bondage and slowly get out of it. So he's saying, first tell me what is Atma and what is Anatma. Then I can think about how to do Viveka. The Guru starts with a loving pat. He first expresses his appreciation. The student is saying, I'm in hell. The Guru says, no, where is the hell? I don't see. You are a very bright, very nice boy. You are a very nice girl. So that's how he's starting his conversation. So in the verse number 52, it's a beautiful, as I told you, somebody is in emergency. First you have to give relief. Then you do rehabilitation, then impact mitigation. Then finally risk reduction. No future disasters. That's how we go in disaster management. Same thing here. First, the Guru gave him relief by saying, don't get scared. Then he says there is a way out, some reassurance. The student now has the courage to ask more questions, and the Guru is further reassuring him before leading him on the path of light. What does the teacher say? Dhanyosi kritakrityosi pavitam te kulam tvaya yada vidya bandha muktya brahma bhavitum ichhasi. He said, oh my God, why are you scared? What is depressing you? Do you know how special and unique you are? The student is kind of flabbergasted. He said, I'm unique, sir? Of course you are. Dhanyosi, I must praise you. You are so privileged. Dhanya. Now here the dhana that the Acharya is referring to is not material wealth, because the student is kind of disturbed. But he is considered to be very privileged and rich in the eyes of the teacher because he has curiosity for truth and he has vairagya for the falsehood of life. He is not interested in the falsehoods, false assurances, false relationships, all sorts of things that we value are actually useless in the long term. And that he has seen through this. So the teacher first congratulates him. Dhanyoshi, oh my God, lucky you. The student saying, why? He's saying, Kritakrityoshi. I mean, you got interest in understanding what is Atma, what is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. You want freedom. These are not easy aspirations. Only when somebody has a lot of punya and dharma, he has lived a very ethical life. He's a very or she's a very good person, that she or he thinks like that. Kritakrityoshi. Kritya is what? What should be, what is karaniya? All punya karmas, bihita karmas, all the good karmas. So this guy definitely has done a lot of nitya, naimittika, good karmas, done a lot of Ishvara upasanas, and he has been a good human being. He has discharged his duties. Everybody has blessed him, and as a result of him, his heart has become cleaner, purer. So now he is able to see through samsara. He has a bit of vairagya. He has a bit of psychological, philosophical detachment to be able to reflect on the nature of life. And then he's saying, Pavitam te kulat kulam tvaya. Tumhare vansh, tumhare kula. Your whole clan has been purified. Why? Because when a person becomes sannyasi or he sort of is interested in philosophy, becomes very meditative, he becomes very kind, compassionate. It's like, if something stinks in a house, if first it starts in a room or a corner of a room, then the whole building gets affected. The reverse is equally true. When there is a nice human being, he has positive energy, it sort of affects all of them. I mean, good things are as contagious as bad things. So the goodness of this guy who is now interested to know about truth, the teacher is assuring him, you have purified your whole clan, your family. Why? Because you have done a lot of punya karmas. Now not interested in power and money and stuff like that, but you want to have a clearer understanding of who you are. You want moksha, you want mukti. The teacher is super happy. Yad avidya bandha muktya. And why is he so privileged? Because of this vairagya, because of his dhana and his privileged understanding of life, he is now trying to remove yad with this particular kritakruti. See, yad avidya bandha muktya, because of which avidya rupaka bandha, out of ignorance, as I was giving you the example of the birds, the pigeons. The bad catcher gets hold of these birds and ties very invisible thin threads to their legs and allows them to fly. The birds will try to fly away. They can fly only a few meters and then the rope will pull them back. So it continues for a month or so. The birds have some relative freedom. Then in the night, the bad catcher puts them inside the cage. And they realize it is better to be inside the cage and get free food. Anyways, we cannot fly away. So they sacrifice this possibility of freedom. Then they are caged in that area of comfort, that this is what my life is. Then they accept it. They are doomed. And then the bird, keeper kind of keeps the door open. Even then, the birds behave like pet birds now, because they have sacrificed the idea of any possible freedom. Now the thread has been removed. Even then, they don't fly away because they are convinced they cannot fly for a long distance. They have to come back. So they come back again and they stay inside. They're used to staying in the cage, free food, fine. So, but this guy is this Abhidyavanda, but there is one bird which could fly to the nearest branch and talk to another bird and realizes, yeah, I'm also free. Why am I tied down to certain received ideas? Therefore, he's saying, Jad avidya bandha muktya, by breaking these chains, Brahma vavitum ichhasi, because of this dhana that you have, the detachment, the philosophical aspiration to meditate on the self, to find out who you are, that you are interested in these questions instead of thinking about a party, instead of thinking about going to a restaurant on a Sunday evening. You want to listen to Viveka Chudamani, you are very privileged, Acharya is saying. Okay, so he's saying there are a couple of beautiful lines from the text he is quoting, the commentator. He says, Kulam pavitra janani kritartha. When the child, the son, wants to be a monk, it's always believed the mother is super happy. Why? Vishwambara puspapati chatena. Because of son's action, she thinks I have blossomed in the right way. I have given birth to a luminous soul who is not trapped in samsara but wants to pursue something different. Aparachis Satchit Sukhasagareshmin Linam Pare Brahmani Yasya Chetaha. The guy whose consciousness is dissolved in the pure consciousness of the Brahman. And then definitely the Apara Satchit Sukha, Satchidananda. One is the Bhavasagara, Dukkha Sagara, and there is a Sukha Sagara, the ocean of bliss. And he is kind of taking a dip in that, he is relaxing there in the ocean of truth, in the ocean of self-awareness. And he's truly privileged. That's what he's saying. Now, why he's saying Kritakritya, whatever was supposed to be done, he has done it, because he's explaining, Paripakva matehe sakrid srutam janayet atmadhiyam sruter vachaha. So the Upanishad Vakyas are there for everyone. Anyone can Google and find the Upanishad text and can read the sentences. Tattvamasi, there are so many Vakyas, right? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Atma Brahma, and all that. You can read the Upanishads, the dialogues, the stories. But not everybody gets a hang of what is intended to be communicated through these sentences. He's saying, however, somebody has a matured mind who has purified his mind, if his consciousness is kind of free, light, luminous, the moment he listens to it, it makes sense to him. It's like there are two students in a class and they are joining engineering, they're first year students. One of them was very good in mathematics, And therefore, when the class starts, they are both in the same class. The professor writes a lot of equations. The guy who was very good and fond of mathematics, he immediately makes sense of what the professor is trying to present. The other student doesn't understand it. So if the bright student gets a hang of what exactly is being discussed, the other one is just thinking about it. He's just thinking about the sentences. The truth, he is not getting anywhere close to it. Now, if somebody has a paripukvadhi, a matured mind, then he gets a hang of the insightful statements in the scriptures, in the philosophical texts for Upanishads. I'm not talking about other Smritis and other traditional texts, who are kind of a whole cobweb, a jungle. Okay. Now, however, he says that if you get this Brahmagyana, then you will be liberated. So this Brahmagyana, is it like a recipe, like making a cake or pizza? Is agantuka is something which is made? No, because truth cannot be made. It's always there. It's only you have to see it. So if there is, for example, a golden necklace is dipped in mud and you are not finding your necklace, but then you just put some water and it's there in the mud. You wash that room in a corner, you find your necklace is lying. You did not get the necklace, it was there. You saw it after you removed the mud layer, beneath which it was kind of lying hidden. Our self knowledge, in that sense, is there. It's Nitya Suddhatva. It's always there. It's self evident. That we are self evident. So there is no question about it. However, we cannot recognize it when you are deluded by the sansarika consciousness. These, the hula balu of life, we don't have the moment to sort of relax and meditate on that aspect. Then next, he's sort of explaining why this bhavabandha mochana, removal of this bondage of life, removal of any kind of bondage, which is a psychological block, you have to take this step. And today's lecture is discussion would be very important, because here in these few slokas, the spiritual verses of Sankaracharya is passing over the responsibility to find out who we are to ourselves only. Nobody can rescue us out. Even Buddha said, I can show you the path. I cannot pull you out of where you are. I can tell you this is the path. You follow the path, you will come out of it. I try to help, it's a temporary relief. You cannot come out of it. Nothing is going to happen. That is why he's mentioning in this. Please look at a beautiful verse 53. ऋणमोचनकर्तारः पितुः सन्ति सुतादयः बन्धमोचनकर्तां तु स्वस्माद् अन्यो न कश्चनः. ऋणमोचनकर्तारः. So you had taken some loan from somebody. Your grandfather had taken a lot of loans, or a friend of yours has taken a loan. He vanishes from the country. He absconds. Like a few of the guys, they take a lot of loans from banks and then they just run away from the country to some other country. So if he goes away, Runa Mochana Kartaraha Pituhu Santi Sutadaya. The father had taken a loan to build a big house, buy some land, set up a business. Unfortunately, he could not do very well in the business. He passed away. The sons inherit the property, but they also inherit their liabilities. And they, of course, it's not legal issue. In traditional system, the sons are supposed to repay the loans of their parents. You have to repay it. So sutadaya, maybe are they, who are the other people? It could be wife, it could be their brothers, their sister. Somebody will pay back the loan to keep the dignity of the clan, to protect the dignity of the clan. Somebody will pay back the loan. We'll have to pay back the loan. However, bandha mochana kartatu swasmad anyo na kashana. The bondage which is restricting and limiting the possibility of our being free, mark the sentence. We are not free. Why? Because we do not know we are actually free. But we are kind of in a cobweb of different ideas and thoughts, and we are caught up in it. He's saying this bondage, because of which we want to get out of this these whole set of chains. We are feeling suffocated from time to time. Now he's saying your loan may be repaid by your friend, your son, but nobody can take you out of this bondage. Because first, there are two issues here. The bondage is not real, like an iron chain, or it's a liability, asset liability statement which is causing problem to you. This bondage is because of a faulty understanding, because of ignorance. It is here. So the bondage can be removed by working on how we think. So it's so critical to transform the way we think, and we limit ourselves. We sort of hold ourselves back. Everything goes to us. That is why, we have to many times make radical choices. So there was this student. There's a beautiful story from this guy, Jean-Paul Sartre, who was an existentialist philosopher. So one student went to him and he says, look here, I have an ailing mother. This is Second World War. I want to defend my country. What choice do I make? Because you say that we are responsible for our lives. But how can I make the best moral choice or existential choice? It is between protecting my mother and protecting my country. And the Jean-Paul Sartre sort of looks at him and says, I agree that this is a difficult moral situation, but ultimately you have to take a call. If your mother is helpless, neither is good or bad, but you have to consider that very important to you. And then that is fine, that's not an issue. It's up to you to decide that if you will always feel guilty later on that you could not protect and take care of your mom who is ailing, go to your mom. If you think in future you cannot forgive yourself that you didn't fight for your nation, then go fight for your nation. But don't leave this choice making to anyone else. You have to think about it. These are very challenging times. In life, many times we have to take very hard decisions, and we generally don't want to think hard. We want to think softly and take a decision where we are minimizing risks, but we are actually not facing ourselves. So we need to be much more bold. That's what he's saying, because nobody can remove the bondage you are in. Because he's giving a very good example. There is a room in which you entered, you saw the snake, you are scared, but actually it is a rope. It's a raju, it's a rope, but you see the snake, you are scared. Now, unless you use a torchlight and focus the torchlight on that snake like object and you discover it's a rope, your fear is going to go away? No, it will stay with you. And therefore, he is assigning us a great responsibility that we need to love and look after ourselves. We need to take the brave step forward to pursue truth, to pursue the meaning of life, to pursue, to figure out who we are. That responsibility has to be with us, because nobody else can take us out of it. There is a message in it, because a lot of us these days, if you look at it, they run to many of these modern age gurus and they hold a lot of sessions, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they make a lot of money. That's good, because there are a lot of people who are ready to pay. And what is wrong if people can go to a magic show and pay money, or dance or music program and pay money, and they're going to a yoga program and paying money? I think there's a fine business and you cannot stop it. It's a free market democracy and it's fine. The issue is actually whether you're watching a film or listening to somebody, or you're going and sitting next to somebody, or somebody sends you any flower or anything. If you believe that if I keep this particular mala, my problems are over. No, I think that is coming out of ignorance, and it will not lead you anywhere at all. So, I had gone to a meeting once in Delhi and I spoke, and there was some business person who came to me and he said, Guruji, so do you also give blessings? I said, I don't know what are you talking about. He said, like, if somebody is having any business problems, can you just bless and he's out of it? I figured out that, it will be a wastage of time to tell him what is Vedanta and this and that. I said, the best blessing is actually your work and your surrender to God. Because real blessings, even if any guru is giving, is actually blessings of God. So ultimately it's coming from God. So why don't you directly connect with him? Of course, the medium is fine. but then you just have to trust yourself, your work, and the divine, the ultimate thing. In the next verse, he sort of is explaining, giving another example why Vedanta says Guru is fine to tell you what is written in Upanishads, to tell you the truths, but he cannot lift you out of your problem. He's a Paramakarunika. By a sheer look, he is removing your pain and frustration. It's like there is a village woman and she has a bright child. The bright daughter has gone to the examination. She missed out on two questions and she comes home. But the mother is a simple housewoman. She doesn't understand anything about what the daughter is studying. So she's maybe writing IIT examination and she comes back a little upset. The mother finds that the daughter is kind of a little depressed, and you have paper two tomorrow or advanced day after a few days, and the daughter is depressed means the mother cannot tolerate it. She goes and puts her hand around the daughter and says, "What happened?" He said, "Mama, I screwed up my examination, my physics. Do you know what kind of questions? You will not understand anything." Mother says, "No, but I understand one thing. I understand that you are quite capable. I understand that you have 2 weeks. I understand that you have 10 hours a day to focus on whatever problems you have had. And I also understand that you do not know as of now whether you're going to clear it or you don't clear it. You are just presuming things and you're getting depressed. Not a problem. Khana khao, padhai karo." And she kisses her daughter, and the daughter is fine. What did the mother do? She knows physics, she doesn't know physics. But she can come in and play a transformative role by psychologically alleviating the daughter from where she was and then enabling her to handle her problem. Now, this Vedantic Guru, he doesn't know the material problems of each and every Shishya who comes to him as to why he took sannyasa, whether he lost his girlfriend, whether he had a fight with his mother, or he had a dispute in his office. He doesn't know all this. But he recognizes this guy has definitely done some punya, he's special, and he has some special ability to take this daring decision. He wants to study the Upanishads. Then he is telling him what is required, like all of us. So Bhagavan, Shankaracharya is telling us, giving another example. And it's a beautiful example. Mastaka dhyasta bhara dehe dukhamannir nivaryate Shudhadi dukham tu vina svena nakena chite. Another beautiful example. So just imagine that you have been given a lot of official tasks. You cannot do it alone. So a colleague of you volunteers and he comes and says, "Okay, kya hai? Why are you so depressed?" "No, I have to do all these things." "Okay, let me help you." "Okay, tell me what are the things I can do for you." "Now I have to make this. Can you look at these Excel sheets and spreadsheets? Can you handle these?" "Yes, I will do the income expenditure." You look at other aspects. So you work on some aspect, he works on some aspect, you finish the task. Now, but if you're hungry, you have serious malnutrition problems. Can your friend eat and you benefit? No, that doesn't happen. So he says, Mastaka nyasta bhara dehe. There is a load on your head, and you are sort of having a painful experience. You cannot take the load anymore. And then dukham anyehi nivaryate. Somebody else comes, that pain, someone else comes and it removes it from your head. Maybe two men, two or three people come and say, "Oh my God, it's so heavy. Who did put it on your head?" And that fellow sometimes the porter say, "Can you just help me?" I have seen many porters, and others immediately volunteer to help to remove it from the head of that lady or that man who's carrying it. Possible. The material, social, economic, financial, these loads on our head, which cause difficulties in our mind, in our consciousness, can be helped out by external help. Now, if there is a psychological issue that we have within ourselves, if we have ignorance, we do not think correctly, no one else can think correctly for us. So he's saying, Shudhadi Krita Dukkham too. So, like Shudha, Krita Dukkham, whatever Papa Punya we have done and we are suffering some pain or whatever, We have to handle it. We have to be brave enough. We have to pick up the gun and protect ourselves from our bad situation. Others will help for the external aspects. But wrong thinking can only be corrected by ourselves. Nobody can correct it. So he's saying, Swena na kena chit. You only can help yourself, no one else. Drishtantaram aha. He's giving another example because this Vivek Chudamani is full of beautiful examples and stories, and it's a kind of enactment of, kind of, as I tell you, kind of an act which is orchestrated by Shankaracharya to sort of help us understand our situation in life. In the next verse, he's saying, even beautiful instance is giving another. Patyam ausatha sevacha kriyate yena rogina arogya siddhi drishtasya nanyanushtita karmana. Patyam ausadha seva cha kriyate yena rogina. So, somebody gives you food, that medicine to eat. And aushadha, medicine also is given to you. In seva, he presses your hands and legs and makes your bed. All these help, nursing people do. It could be your mother, your father, your friend, your wife, your husband. Somebody provides you that nursing care. Yena rogina. But you have to finally look after yourself in terms of taking the medicine, washing yourself, your self-care, all that you have to do. Some external help is there, but you have to finally, the rogi, that particular patient who is able to look after all these issues, he takes his medicine, he takes whatever is prescribed food, the diet guide in diet chart, he follows it, and whatever rules and regulations, seva, whatever is asked to follow. Don't take sugar, do not take spicy food. He is able to follow these rules and regulations. Don't watch television because your eyes are hurting. So he knows all that. And it's okay, yena rogina arogyam siddhi drishtasya. Then he recovers. There is another patient who doesn't take medicine in time. He eats whatever is tasty to his taste buds, whatever he loves, he takes. The doctor says you cannot drink, he drinks. His liver is already damaged. So he's gaining pace towards a complete failure of his liver. What will the doctor do? And sevi, whatever seva is being advised, that okay, you do a bit of exercise, you have to walk 2 kilometers, he'll not do it. Take some herbal tea, he is back to his bad habits. What can the doctor do? Na anya anushtita karmana. And then other things you will do. You play football, you have fever, you will be better? No. So what is the disease? Accordingly, you do the treatment. So the disease in the samsara is actually faulty thinking, too much obsession with all these superficial things as if they are real. That is the main disease. And what we require a bit of vairagya, a bit of detachment, a bit of interest in jnana, Ishwarapasana, and nishkama karma. All these things are prescribed. But instead of doing this, we said, I'm giving a lot of donations to some guru. So he's protecting me. Okay, maybe that delusion will continue for a while till you are hit hard by another exigency in life, then your eyes will open. That happens to a lot of us. We invest a lot of emotions in a lot of things just because these things make us feel better, more comfortable. But these are not based on truth. We need to know it, we need to understand it. Okay? And then he's explained. Another example is giving in the next verse, verse number 56. And this is a very beautiful and a simple verse, but it's an interesting verse where he's explaining it further. Vastu swarupam sputabodha chakshusa swaneva vidyam natu panditena chandra swarupam nija chakshuseva jnatavyamanye ravagamyate kim. Vastu swarupam. What is swarupata? What is atma? What is the problem you have, or whatever skills you have, or whatever understanding you have? What is that atma tattva? You cannot read it from somewhere. You can get some vague idea about what it is. And he's saying, Sputa bodha chakshusha. You directly have to know Now, if you want to see what's a nail cutter, you have never seen it. So if you do not know what's a nail cutter and you see this is a nail cutter, I saw it, then I know this is a nail cutter. If you have not seen this, you tell me nail cutter, maybe I'll think about a blade or a knife or anything. I would say, what is a nail cutter? Is it like a scissor or something? I haven't seen a nail cutter. So until and unless you have seen that truth, Vastu Swarupa, unless you see it, so without seeing it, na kriyate, sorry, so chakshusa, swena eva vedyam, you can only know it yourself with the help of your own eyes. Natu panditena, you hired the wisest guy, the greatest Sanskrit scholar you'll hire. Why are you hiring him? I'm a rich man. And what he will do? He will read all the Vedantic texts and he will liberate me. How? No, he will understand. No. So then he will tell the final thing, then I'll get liberated. And I've seen, you must have seen that. Some of the richest people on earth, they hire best professors and teachers for their children. The children's performance, however, doesn't improve. It goes to a certain level because the student is not willing to exert. What will the teacher do? He may be a great teacher, so what? You hired 20 Nobel laureates. You think the child will become a Nobel laureate? No, it doesn't happen. He has to exert. So Vedanta always, these are two, three things which actually gives us a lot of confidence. Vedanta is completely different because Ishvara Guru and Ishvara Prasada, Guru Bhakti, Ishvara Bhakti, these are all given a lot of importance also. These are all important. But the final breakaway thing happens by your own efforts. Nobody can give you that self awareness for which we are trying. We have to ourselves take that final leap, out of our zone of comfort. It is giving an example. So you have that blood moon or super moon or whatever, but you are in a particular place where that super moon is not available. Like there's a lunar eclipse, so you're going to have this diamond ring. You are in a continent where it's not visible in that particular, location. Can you say you have seen it because you read it in newspaper or somebody sort of talks about it? You can see pictures these days, but yet the experience you will have if you can see it yourself, that cannot be experienced indirectly either by looking at any pictures or YouTube or by reading about it from an astronomer or somebody who is a stargazer or something. He might tell you things. A journalist discusses this on the television. You can also learn to talk as if you have seen it, but actually you haven't seen it. So the Atmajnana thing is like that. So what he says is Chandra Swarupam Nija Sakshusa Eva. What is the Swarupa of Chandra? How beautiful is the moon? What was this diamond ring during that complete total lunar eclipse? It's only you can see it if you're there, if you use your own eyes. Yatavyam annehi abagamyate kim. Can you see that with the help of someone else? If you get out of your room and then that eclipse is available for you to see at a particular appropriate location, then you can see and experience it. You cannot see it from any location. You have to be at a location where you can see it. The sky should be clear, there shouldn't be clouds. Then you can actually have access to that beautiful moon. Otherwise, not. Similarly, this Atmajnana, you have to be at a particular, that setting, those that few variables which make these understanding easier to happen. We are free, Vedanta says. We just don't know. It's like you have a lot of money, you have forgotten the password of your bank account. So Vedanta tells that we need to exert and we need to break away from the limited consciousness where we are prisoners. We are caged in that limited consciousness. The next verse, so he sort of further elaborates it. अविद्या कामकरमादि पासबन्धं विमोचितुं कशक्नुयाद् विनात्मानं kalpakoti sateirapi. This is the essential Vedanta thing in the end he's saying. This Atma Bandha, that we are talking about, this avidya bandha, that bondage of ignorance, इसको कैसे निकले यहाँ से? Can we shoot it down with the help of a gun or use a knife? Asanga, asanga sastena chitva. You have to chop this ignorance, that bondage, with asanga by remaining free from identification with everything around you. You identify. The more you identify, the more bonded you are. Remember this. This is very important. You love everyone, but don't get identified, because the more identified you are, the more suffering that will come to you. You love your daughter is fine, not an issue. But if you are too identified, when tomorrow she wants to marry a person of a choice and you have somebody else in your mind, she wants to marry, she tells, I want to marry, you have problems. Whenever she disagrees with you, you have problems. Why? Because you think, my daughter, I love her, I have raised her. This is your problem. She is not responsible for this. You identify, you suffer. The more we identify, the more we suffer. On the other hand, if we loosen our grip, we follow our things, we are kind of enablers as parents of people around us. We do not want to sort of bind them to our diktats. We are better and they are much better. So similarly, he's saying, avidya kama karmadi pasabandham. Now, you can look at these words, avidya kama karma. First is ignorance. The second one is the effect of the first one. Avidya, because of ignorance, we have kama, a lot of desires, this, that, that. We are not even here permanently. Many of the things we are fantasizing about are just temporary. And it's so funny that, can you imagine that a lot of people have a lot of false psychological bondages. I mean, I'm not making fun of anyone, but then you know about stories, right? People in old days have had obsessions with XYZ people. In old days, and in Orissa, the great poet Radhanath Roy, he had liking for a school teacher, and then he was so moral, he was so ethical, and he was a great poet, and he was already an old man. He had weakness for a school teacher or lecturer or something. He was so brutal with himself that he wrote hundreds of letters to people he respected in the elite society and dropped that mail saying that at this age, I'm about to die. I have fallen in love with a woman who's a good writer, and she's a much younger lady. Had it been today, he would have married her, because it's happening. Like, you have seen a lot of these musicians, like it could be Ravi Shankar, it could be many people. By the way, T.S. Eliot also got married to his secretary, who was 29 when he was 62. So these things can happen mutually, that's fine. But in many places, these things also lead people to a lot of heartbreaks and emotional trauma. Why? Identification. So avidya, that identification, that leads to desires. The right person is not there, so who is desiring? The wrong person is there in my mind, so I have wrong desires. My body requires herbal tea and a bit of boiled food, but my mind is kind of corrupted with desires for other things. I think I'm a healthy person, so I am ordering a very spicy soup which my body cannot take. Desire, out of avidya. And then karma will lead to karma. When you have desire, you would like to fulfill it, so you will do a lot of karmas, and the karmas will create further bondages, further attachments. It continues, it becomes like a vicious circle. One desire, then another attachment, one karma, then further attachment. So we are caught up in that vicious circle. Pasa bandham, and this is the chain, the trap of samsara. Bimochitam. Sakya, who can do it? Who can remove this chain? Except by knowing who he is. You know, once you must have seen a lot of stories, right? So we have read a lot of Puranas and a lot of stories. Like, you have the story of Meenaketana. So the Meenaketana in Lord Vishnu sort of came. There was a mother, it's a beautiful story. I don't know if it's known in other parts of India, but it's there in Orissa and Bengal. So there was this mother who used to do some partiality, and there was one child, he was God, Lord Vishnu was born there. And then she was distributing coconut pieces to her children, but this boy came at the end and she sort of gave him the chilka, saying, "This is coconut," and there was just very little coconut in it. And the boy said, "Okay, Mama, you don't recognize who am I, so I'm going to punish you." And then he was born again and again, and he will die after a few months. And he tortured his mother in her next life. But on the seventh time, the mother meditated, and then he figured out there was a conversation. And Meena Ketan was telling his wife that I'm going to go there again to trouble her because I felt very humiliated. I had gone there as a child, but she didn't give me my due. She did a bit of partition kind of a behavior. And then, how will you do now? My mother will protect me. I'll die like this. Well, mother does this. What you do? And finally, then Meena Ketan comes, and the mother has heard all the stories. And then, therefore, she protects the child. I will not let my son die. She does everything. So the son makes a lot of unreasonable demands. The mother knows he is a divine figure. She fulfills all that and asks for forgiveness. Then God sticks around, he doesn't go. And then he's grown up, he gets married. But the wife doesn't know about all the stories. So the God's wife, Mahalakshmi, she sort of reaches there in the garb of a poor woman who's selling fruits. And then he's saying, "When are you coming home?" or something. Wife says, "What are they asking you?" "No, no, it's a different conversation." He said, "No, tell me the truth." He says, "Please don't argue with me. You cannot know the truth. You want to be happy? I'm keeping you happy. I'm with you. But if you want to know the truth, you will not find me." Wife says, "No, truth is more important for me." So this Meena Ketana gets into water, goes till neck deep, and he says, "Still you want to know?" Wife says, "Yes." Then he says, "I'm not a human being. I am a divine angel. I had come here to punish my mom because she had sort of hurt my emotions. Now I'm going. I'm dropping this physical body." And he leaves. And of course, this girl loses her husband. But she knows it was a divine figure. Now, the whole, the one of the reasons is there is that this particular human being who thought he's a human being had to be reminded by his wife who came and told, "When are you coming home?" Till that point, he didn't remember his God. Once he's born, we are born in this life. We don't know our divine nature. We do not know about how pure we are. We do not know how good we are. Till the Shastra here reminds us, where are you trapped? You're pure, you're good. Who told you you are not good? Who told you you are not pure? My boy, get up and come to me. See the bliss. And the bliss lies in truth, nothing else. Truth liberates. There's a powerful sentence in Bible. It says truth liberates. So that is the Vedantic insight. It is there in language, in different language, in different religious scriptures. The ultimate truth is one. So the truth is that we have to have the courage to look for ourselves. And without knowing the self, we cannot get rid of the false ideas about what we are. Just imagine there is a boy who is, because of a medical condition, doesn't remember who he is. He's been given some sedative. He gets up and then he's told different kinds of things. And then, he can do anything because he's kind of tutored, you are this or you are that. And suddenly he gets back his sense. Then he says, "Oh my God, who am I? I'm not this. Why am I doing all this?" He immediately runs away from that particular entrapment. Similarly, without knowing who we are, we cannot break this chain. Now it's like chicken and egg. If you to know ourselves, we have to break the chains, and to break the chains, we must know ourselves. So how to go about it? No, it's not such a difficult thing. You do one and try to go to the next level and slowly. Niraharasya dehinaha, right? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. So even you can get rid of the Vishaya vasanas by remaining hungry. Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drushta nivartate. But the one who knows what is Brahman, what is Atma, the vasana vijas are there. You will not go to see a movie. You will not go to eat in malls. You shall not talk to anyone. Desires are dead. No, they are there in you. The desires are there. When we go to sleep, our desires don't die, they sleep. When they wake up, we wake up. Same sanskara they can start. So we are not solving the problems by going to sleep, by taking some medicine or anything. No, problems are not solved. Vedanta says we have to meditate on it, solve them in a slow, steady process. There is no alternative to self awareness and self knowledge. That is why some people say it's a very elitist kind of thing. It's not meant for very average people. It's meant for now bala hinena labhyaha. So the weak-minded people, no, they cannot do this Atmajnana business, because you have to be really hard-nosed person. You have to be courageous. You have done your karma. You have done a lot of bhakti. You have to. The more and more bhakti you do, and you do right actions, you grow with courage, and that courage enables you now to meditate on the Upanishadic secrets, the insights, and then we make progress. So he's saying, this is beautiful sentence he's saying, Tameva viditva atimrutyumeti nanya pantha vidyadyanaya. Only knowing the Brahman, you can do atikramana of death, you can become immortal. There is no other way to solve this conundrum called ignorance and this life, birth and death. And there is another sentence in the Upanishad, Jnanat eva tu kaivalyam, that kaivalya prapti, that ultimate self-realization, only through Atma Jnana. Now you might say, why not through Bhakti, Ramakrishna, Paramahansa, Tulsidas, what about them? They were not ignorant the way we think. They were self-realized people. They propagated Bhakti for the common masses. And a lot of these great Bhaktas, without having gone to universities, doesn't mean they're ignorant. Because all the time they are doing bhajana, they are doing meditation. Slowly the mind becomes refined. They may not be able to speak in our language. Doesn't mean they don't understand. They don't have the capacity to understand. What Vedanta says, when you do a lot of upasana, that divine, reality with that name and form, it's Brahman only with a certain name and form, like Ganga in Calcutta and Ganga in Rishikesh. And that God, the God Himself, comes to give you advice, ultimate truth, and liberates you with His grace. Pangum karoti vachalam. Sorry. Mukam karoti vachalam pangulangriyati giri. Yat krupatamaham bande paramananda madhamam. With His grace, anything is possible. So this is how in the verse number 57 he sort of mentions, and then he makes a very radical statement which will again appear to be very arrogant, elitist, glorifying only a kind of contemplative life. You might say that was Shankaracharya, kind of very snooty, very arrogant professor. No, he wasn't. He was telling something, a very bare truth that one has to have courage to accept. But let's look at the sloka. न योगेन न सांख्येन कर्मणा नो न विद्यया ब्रह्मातेकत्वबोधेन मोक्ष सिद्ध्यति नान्यथा. न yogena. You do a lot of pranayama, you do a lot of hatha yoga, you do all this, and Patanjali yoga. You can silence your mind. You will not know yourself ultimately. The moment you get up from meditation, sansar will again encircle you. The Vedanta says, no, you do meditation. That is very, very important. But the ultimate breakaway from this samsara happens through self-knowledge. And for that, Upanishad reading is very, very important. You need to meditate on the Upanishadic statements, because they'll lighten you up. They'll give you confidence. You know you are this. And you can read other philosophical texts as well. It's not that everything is kind of a copyright of Upanishads. I'm not putting Upanishads in that sense. But what I'm saying is that the insights which help us to meditate on the self are important first steps to start with. Next, now Sankhya. Sankhya Yoga believes Purushas are Aneka. So they believe in Anekatma. Then this is Bheda Buddhi. So, whenever there is Bheda Buddhi, there is fear. Whenever there is somebody else, you are afraid. So he's saying that also will not, because Aichya Buddhi, absolute monism, that only will give us liberation. And then na karmana, all these yajnas, the soul, the pandas and the purohitas, the karmas they were doing, the kings, they were doing a lot of karmas. Yeah, initial stage is very good. Instead of sleeping and watching TV, you are doing some karma and puja. Excellent. But this puja is only a preparation for studying Vedanta, for meditating, for doing vichara. Ultimate thing is vichara here. No vidyaya. Vidyaya means what? Vidya is actually knowledge. No, vidya here is upasana. In Vedanta, in all these words, whenever they like, we say that Saraswati Vidya Rahasya. Vidya is all upasana. There are certain techniques to meditate, do puja. So these vidyas, different kind of Dasa Mahavidyas, we know, doing propitiations of these Omkar Upasana, all these upasanas can take you to the penultimate stage where again you have to do vichara. What is the Atma? Then only finally will break away from it. They are saying, Brahmat mekatva bodhena. The Brahman and you and the Brahman, all of us actually one. And we have to meditate on that. Moksha siddhyati na anyatha. We can get final that breakaway from all this that we're discussing only by meditating on that unity of everything, unity of consciousness. Otherwise, we are kind of trapped in samsara. And I think I'll stop here and then you can ask any questions. But anyway, I'm putting an end to the YouTube. Thank you for listening. You can ask questions. We'll do this until once.